I have this high school bully. Her name's Jessica, and she's been making my life a living heck for so long. Well, I'm about to tell you guys the most ultimate betrayal story you've ever seen, and it leaves me wondering, how do I go about revenge? Because I'm not going to let her finally get away with it this time, because I'm coming for her. If there was one thing my mother, may she rest in peace, said that made me sick of hearing it, it was that good people don't always win, and that bad people rarely get what they deserve. Something a bit abrupt for a 10-year-old girl, I'd say. But today I have it closer than ever, because I feel my world falling because of the shamelessness of others, and the worst possible way. To understand all this, I'll give you two stories. The first I like to call the worst years of my life. That is, my high school days. In high school, young Amanda had to go through tough years due to the constant presence, of a mastodon that people called Jessica. You see, Jessica, a giant redhead, almost 6 feet tall, even was not the most popular, pretty, intelligent, or even charismatic in the room. She did not have any positive qualities. I know, it sounds cruel, but I'm going to come clean here in front of you because I'm tired of putting up with so much abuse. Something the Amanda of the time would not have the courage to do. If there was anything to highlight about her, it was her meanness. She was feared even by men and by those in superior years. I remember she once dragged a senior girl by the hair just because she dared to laugh at a picture of her in the school yearbook. After that, she earned a little bit of a reputation for the rest of her time at the high school as a girl to watch out for. And worst of all, I had to put up with it. I had my encounters with her too. Whether it was because we shared groups and subjects or because of one silly thing that led to another. To keep it in perspective, on one occasion, we were together in a group for an exhibition on geography. She was the only one who did not meet up with the practice, only to arrive a day before in front of us saying that she was going to be included in the project for having made the slides. Well, we all looked at her and refused. But because of the mounting pressure of what she might do to us, we took the deal. Unfortunately, she never passed her slides to us to rehearse with, so the next day we're just in limbo while we exhibited. Why? Because she only did her part of the exhibit, and she did it poorly, with spelling mistakes here and there, and lots of text that just weighed down the presentation. Several images in very low quality. She failed because she did not know how to say her point. And while the rest of us did pass, we did not get a great grade. In fact, we were one of the worst grades in the room. Then she got angry and looked at us and threatened us not to do that to her ever again when it was entirely her fault. On another occasion, and excuse me for going on too long, I have too many stale anecdotes. In physical education, we both, starred in one of the most humiliating events of my entire life. Which I still say was a plot of fate or the planets to mix this up to make everything turn out the worst way possible. That day we went to PE. Uniforms as usual, one of the loosest shorts in the world, and we had marathon evaluation. Just before my shift started, Jessica came up with this brilliant idea, pulling down my pants, revealing, oh gosh, how embarrassing, my Hello Kitty underwear. Suddenly, that humiliation would have been enough, except that I was just coming off, my lady times. Yeah, that's right. The whole room could see Halloween Hello Kitty, and I felt humiliated and fell to the floor. The affair was so bad that Jessica was expelled for 3 days, having to offer me a formal apology. She never did it, though, and the teachers just eventually let it go. I think they were scared. That event was so horrible and, loud, that no one got a laugh out of it. I mean, you did that to a girl during her, cycle? some jokes are clearly over the line, and when she noticed this, that no one seemed to applaud her for making a little short girl in the room cry, that's when she was the most outraged at me. I missed the next day out of embarrassment for what others would say. And while there were comments here and there, at least they did not transcend. But that was only externally, because inside I was dying. I have so many stories to tell you about old Jessica. The time she, made me put a hand in a toilet. The time she put something in my soda to make me throw up. The time where she poured artificial gas down my pants. Made me think she had, I don't know what happened. And all those times she would just throw those little chalk pieces that are in classrooms at the back of my head. Well, I can't tell them all, and if you're wondering why I let myself or why I did not tell someone, the reasons are varied. What happened mostly is, like many cases of bullying, I told adults, but no one knew how to give me an answer or defend me. I tried to change schools, but we didn't have enough money to afford another place. In that sense, I was in a state of perdition. And so it went for several years, to the point of suffering a new humiliation every day. Somehow my studies were not so affected, and I was able to leave the place with one of the best averages, much to the anger of Jessica, who kept calling me names because of my, intelligence. A clear sign of envy. You don't know how happy I was when my college years finally arrived, and I told myself that I would never have to meet that horrendous creature again. However, the damage had already been done, as her humiliation and bullying, it penetrated deep inside of me, and the worst thing was that the boy she was dating went to my same university, so I saw her on many occasions. She was no longer a bump in my road, but her constant presence in my life still did not make me feel safe. She changed a lot during her transition to college, though, physically and mentally. While she was not the same intimidating, aggressive figure that she used to be, at least now her plans were more thought out, methodical, and passive. I remember the last encounter we had. It was over a rumor. I know she started about me and my boyfriend, and that escalated to the point where he broke up with me. But I didn't care much, as the guy ended up being a jerk. In which case, I might even thank Jessica. Still, one unfair aspect was her physical change. She managed to have this sculpted body after giving herself a growth spurt, and now a lot of men were after her. She would just end up taking advantage of them when she had the chance, and I like to believe that she redirected her bullying into a more lucrative field, squeezing money out of desperate lovers who would give anything for her. And she didn't care for them at all. For her, the good life, and I guess that's fine. I mean, to each its own, right? But that's when my life enters this equation. Ready? Okay, so here it is. I met Tom in college. In my senior year, right after that relationship that I tell you Jessica helped destroy, he was my compensation for many things. Perhaps because he was too broken in several ways. He suffered from bullying at his school, and those were equally traumatic experiences for him. Leading to anxiety, self-esteem issues, you name it. I remember one of the things I liked about him was how shy he was about flirting with me. He would ask me if I was okay, and he wanted to know if it's okay if he flirts, and if he wasn't messing up anything. Anyone would have found that annoying, but for some reason, something about him made me find it cute. Because I knew where he was coming from, and that we did share that in common. I helped him a lot during all those times when he was feeling bad about himself, saying that no one would like him. I mostly told him that he did not have to be a Casanova heartbreaker to feel good, and that at least he had been able to win someone over just the way he was with me. I still remember part of the speech he gave me when he asked me to marry him. When I saw you, I saw myself, just reflected in another person. Insecurities, flaws, but always understanding that it can improve. I promise the same loyalty, baby, and trust that you have given me throughout the time that we've been together, and that I'll compensate you for every mistake I've ever made. I just hope I don't make too many. And, well, I don't know what you guys think, but guess what? I believe cheating on me with the bully of my entire life can be considered a damn mistake. That's right. He cheated on me with none other than Jessica. Of all the freaking people in the world, it had to be the one I literally disliked the worst. He could have slept with anyone else, and I still would have just frowned, but Jessica? I can't believe that fate, or life itself, would hate me so much as to make the most bitter coincidence of all main course in my reality. I dare say it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, but if there's one thing I'm sure of, that's no matter how many bad things can happen to you, there will always be scenarios that make everything worse. I found out nothing more and nothing less than several comments on networks, mostly by one of Jessica's friends. I don't have her added as a friend personally, and I would not dare to. I saw in her stories that she put several references to Jessica and another guy, and I quote you, "The one with thick glasses," and well, as many women, my alerts were activated, even in a quite exaggerated sense. Don't get me wrong. I know there are thousands of people in the world with glasses like that, but the mind is a powerful thing, and sometimes it can see beyond what we think we understand. What happened to me, because as time went on, I started noticing more patterns in Jessica's post, where she was bragging about a relationship with a married guy and all. And when she posted a photo, I guess without Tom's consent, where a hand with a mole near the middle finger were clearly shown without showing the face, I lost my temper. The only redeeming part of all this is that Tom immediately broke down, admitting his guilt in the whole affair. She explained to me in detail how it all had been, and how weak she was for accepting the affair. They met at a meeting of mutual friends, where she became interested in him. I think that when she found out he was my husband, she became that much more morbid about doing it with him. Or at least that's what I'm guessing based on our history together. Anyways, she told him they might as well see each other in private, and I know this because I asked her how, and she showed me the conversation. Not an entirely good move on my part, but I was angry, and it was either that or committing recklessness. Well, I watched in horror as the man I loved the most for 5 beautiful years of our marriage now played games with the person I hated the most from almost my entire life. It was indignation at astronomical levels. Sure, reading the conversations, it's clear that Jessica is the one throwing herself at him, showing all the evil that woman hides in her irrational hatred for me. But Tom, he's no better. For although he sometimes plays hard to get, he can't help but bend like a little lamb. They would send each other very, very spicy pictures and text messages, and what disgusts me the most about it all is that he would not even delete the conversations, trusting that I would never see them. I don't want to say he wasn't smart enough, and I would applaud him if he had, but hey, it's cheating on me in my face. Gosh, just writing this makes my hackles rise. It's only been a few days since that revelation, and I did not know how to vent about everything I'm going through. After this situation, the trust that was in the house has been on the floor. And not for nothing. See, Tom cried too much. Maybe even more than I did. But I told him I'm not for that kind of thing. I came to my sister's house because I really cannot be around him. He's looked for 1,000 ways to be with me, or at least try to communicate, but I always say that all that will be in vain. It's terrible that the person you helped for so long betrays you in such a monumental way. My sister, far from helping, all she does is curse Tom, saying he's an unfaithful dog and deserves no forgiveness. I told her that's true and that he does not deserve my forgiveness. although there are still a few more things that need to be discussed, mostly because of the divorce issue, because I'm not willing to forgive this one. I feel I'm being very cold in this scenario, but I would rather get away from it all as soon as possible, and just when I thought Jessica's looming presence would never come near my life again, out comes this new low blow. I just hate everything right now, but it'll eventually get better, I'm sure it will, but not today. What's up everybody, Mr. Reddito here. Man, today's story already took off on a wild ride. We're talking about OP having her husband cheat on her with not only some random person, but her high school bully. Well, if you think that was some turbulence, you haven't seen anything yet. Update number 1 takes place a couple weeks later. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for daily videos, and let's jump into update number 1. Well, it's been a couple weeks, and I had the most bitter conversations of my life. It was talking to Tom about the divorce issue, something that did not sit well with him at all, to levels I did not think that I would ever know about him. On the advice of my sister and her friends, I was told that I should confront the man, to come to our old house and tell him my views. I was going in with the killing intentions, but when I arrived, the reality was different. I found a guy in his last room with a house turned into a pigsty, as if he'd never cleaned it in his life. Food everywhere, dirty walls, more dirty dishes piled up than I could count, garbage not taken up and stacked to the roof, and this rancid smell in some parts of the house. It gave me quite a pain to see our former love nest turned into a ode of filth. I was told that was Tom's way of expressing his soul, as a pile of garbage, as cruel as that sounds to say. This man gets down on his knees and tells me, don't abandon him, for so far all his days have turned gray without me. That he promised to get better, to be something different, that he'd stop seeing Jessica and would now just devote himself entirely to me. I brag about this because on networks I saw Jessica posting quite a few hints about how, and I quote, she came out winning once again, and stuff like that on social media, so I understand and believe that they're no longer seeing each other and that she did it just to ruin my life. Every time I think about forgiving him, I can't help but imagine him with her and her with him. Ugh. Sending our relationship to hell, and reliving the hatred I had for that woman for so long. Still, I admit I felt too sorry to see him in that condition. For an instant, I did not see the man I married, but just another victim of bullying. Only this one had committed a very serious offense, and I was truly sorry. However, I must put my foot down and do what I consider right. It's my time to take revenge for all the bad things that have happened to me in life. So I'm already envisioning a plan that may work in the long run. In the meantime, I have to bite my tongue and just pretend that I will forgive Tom for everything. I know it sounds complicated, but believe me when I tell you that the best parties are the ones that take the longest to prepare for. Update number 2. It could be said that things have returned to normal, or at least that's what this, well, shown on the outside. The truth is that inside me there's been a hurricane of pent-up emotion. I found out about my husband Tom's cheating and told him about it, with him generating some sort of severe depression condition all of a sudden. So I decided that if I was going to separate from him, it would be in the most subtle way possible, without telling him. So, I feel that this may also benefit me, at least in a psychological sense, to be able to go through my grief with him so that at the time of disclosure it won't hurt as much. I consulted with a divorce lawyer, and he told me that this idea was more common than it seemed. I would be doing this corresponding act so that I could separate without the man knowing, and when I have to ask for his signature, that's when I'll finally reveal everything. If I tell him about the process, he's going to be pitying me all the time and begging me to not do it. I want to spare him of that. Not so much for him, but for me. It's been a few weeks and the dynamic has been loose. Mind you, with Tom being the most passive being I've ever met in my life, he's tried to cheer me up every day, professing all the love languages left and right. I don't know if you know about that. He's texted me poems, tried to spend quality time with me, done me favors, and gives me the occasional sweet. I know he doesn't want to overdo it to overwhelm me. The only thing that hasn't been done as such is touching me. I won't allow it. I feel that he's even too afraid of me to even try, and so our time goes by while some people keep commenting on what is wrong with us and why are we so distant. Things got a little tense. I almost ruined my plan because of something I saw on the interwebs. Jessica. She's pregnant. But far from thinking wrong, which I did right off the bat, I found out that her pregnancy just started recently, and that the last intimate relationship she had with Tom, I hate to even say it, was almost 2 months ago. So, the dates don't add up. But this only rekindled the hatred I had for the whole situation and made me stick to my plan. The papers are being dealt with, and it's often difficult to set up meetings with the lawyer without Tom knowing about it because, as I told you, he's always glued to me like a glue stick. I can't imagine how he'll be when he finally sees that we won't be together anymore. Well, about Jessica, what can I say? She got pregnant by one of the thousands of suitors that she has. That's all I know and all I need to know and all I care to know. I can't wish her ill, because that would be something very, very bad to do. So I'm just going about my business and projecting peace without any distractions. When everything is ready, I'll tell you guys what happened, because a story like this could even be adapted into a novel or Hollywood movie. At least my sister sees it that way. Update number 3. The anxiety and depression can get pretty bad, and as much as I hate being a part of it, I know I should not let anybody bend me over. A week ago, I showed Tom the divorce papers, passing them off as some just random document he had to sign. Well, the house ownership stuff, and since he did everything I asked without complaint, he had no problem signing, not realizing that he was sealing our separation fate. A few days later, the document became effective, with me throwing the signs of infidelity which they declared sufficient justification to be able to incur the formal divorce. Little by little, and without Tom noticing, I moved things out of the house. We'd been sleeping in separate rooms all this time, and I told him that at some point we could get back together. Yeah, that's a bit cruel, right? And I ended up staying with my sister. When he called me one day, noticing I wasn't there the day before without leaving a note, well, I just left him a message. I'm sorry for everything, Tom, but I won't be able to continue. We are divorced. Amanda. That's all it took for chaos to reign, and, well, Tom changed 180 degrees after that divorce message was sent, and I knew it affected him because he could not even bring himself to write a message to reply. 3 days later, I started asking about him, but hardly anybody would tell me anything about it. On recommendations from several parties, I did the best I could, staying out of any kind of interaction and always being alert that something unforeseen could happen out the blue. But nothing of the sort transpired. Yesterday, my sister told me she ran into Tom near the grocery store, and what she saw, it was not pretty. Amanda, you won't believe this, but I saw Tom in the supermarket, and he was, almost unrecognizable. His beard, it was surprisingly very long for having only been there a week. He showed up with this greasy hair and wrinkled, tattered, dirty, stain-ridden clothing, as if he was living under a bridge. He was indeed deplorable, to the point where I tried to talk to him. I asked him as if I didn't know anything about what happened, but he was not one to mince words. I'm telling you, Amanda, He told me that his reasons for existing were over, through his fault and his fault only, and went on his way. I guess he would have known that you were with me, and that I would be aware of everything, so he did not want to relive this discomfort again, Amanda. Wow. Well, I'd be lying if I said I did not feel sorry for him, but I have to stay true to my principles and all the implies. That is, knowing that the other person will have their life, right or wrong, and that I have to move it. I know from Facebook that Jessica is too excited about her baby. As if I care. And that she's already bragging about buying cute little clothing on social media without even knowing the gender. Tom and I never really considered having a baby, and I feel it was for the best because this situation would have been way more awkward. He told me a couple years ago that he saw children in our future, but he should have held on to this idea before throwing himself into someone else's arms. Update number 4. The lawyers. Hey guys, another update. I just got back from a meeting with the lawyers and Tom. And let me tell you, it was not pretty. I did not see the same person I married. I saw a human being that was considered a shipwreck, who could barely put one foot in front of the other. Guys, it sounds exaggerated, but I swear, Tom is messed up. Physically, mentally, whatever else. The meeting was because he wanted to appeal that divorce, saying it's invalid and he was unaware of the affair, claiming he was the one cheated on. I laid out, once again, and with all the embarrassment in the world, the evidence of infidelity he had with Jessica. And it was not 2 hours before a verdict was given. It was said to have been one of the least fruitful meetings there had ever been, and Tom could tell by sight that it had been a desperate attempt at it. It was then that he came up to me and said a few things. And though I ignored him, I could even sense a certain whiff coming from him that I found nothing but hurt. He told me that he still loved me, and that he would do everything he could to have me again. He would almost get down on his knees again in the street just to yell to the world that he wants to remarry me, that I should give him another chance, and that, yes, if I accepted, there might be even the slightest bit of deal and condition for the relationship. Well, I didn't quite understand what he was referring to, but I didn't want to find out. However, I can't help but feel very bad about it. The guy goes out of his way to show how sorry he is, to the point of being a beggar in front of me, in front of everyone. It arouses a bit of sympathy in me, but I don't feel like I can live the rest of my life with that kind of betrayal. Why can't Tom just move on? The one moment where he didn't seem like he was about to die was when he said to me, and I quote, "And you just pretended all this time, Amanda, that I could have another chance. In reality, you cheated on me too. I may be a bad person, yes, but I know you're not exempt from anything." Well, that hurt a bit. Update number 5. This is the final update by OP. There are moments when one thinks about whether the actions one does are or were worthwhile. In my case, it's difficult to say, as I have to admit that they contributed to bitter events such as the death of a loved one. I arrived home a few days ago, only to receive a call from a friend, saying something dreadful. Tom passed away. He took his own. It was a cloudy Wednesday in the middle of once a dirty, messy, unloving home. I can't help but cry over what happened, and I do feel bad for him. After our divorce, I learned that he went into severe depression, which was on the lips of many of our acquaintances. Almost everybody was willing to help him, but he would just lock himself in the house and wait for life to go on. He used to say that he had lost everything, and that he had become his own greatest enemy for having betrayed the one love that he ever had. The one love that made sense, and he deserved that. Of course, there were other things like the self-esteem issues and the bullying he received as a young man, saying that sometimes good people make mistakes too, and just automatically going to dark sides just like those who aggravated them originally. Tom left a letter, but only his brother has it, and I don't think he'll let us read it. I don't think I'd be interested anyways. It would just be too heartbreaking to face it. That's when I wonder if it was all worth it. Keeping the divorce from him might have been a bit low, and it makes me question too many things in my life, and I don't think I'm ready for another relationship. At least, not now. Since Tom wasn't the only one who started building a trust issue, I've been feeling a bit sick for a while now, like my heart's just spinning and it won't stop. And I feel like a real culprit is just unpunished. In a perfect world, and excuse me for writing like this, Jessica would not even be able to have her baby. Yeah, I don't know how she's doing with that, as I've stayed far away from social media completely. But only time will tell what kind of mother she'll be. If it's compared to the kind of woman she's been all her life, I wish that baby the best of luck. The last I heard, and it was because I overheard it from a friend's conversation, was that the baby's father left, abandoned her, as he was a married man, and said he didn't want to take responsibility for the mistake he's made. Well, what do you call that? I guess it's kind of like a divine intervention, divine justice. As my mother used to say, sometimes good people end up losing, and bad people don't get what they deserve. I think there's a lot of grayscales in my story, and you know what? I'm just too tired to analyze it. No more updates. Alright guys, so the comment section of this one, it was all over the place. A lot of people were standing up for OP, saying, hey, this is a sad story, and yes, what Tom did is very distressful and sad, but you have nothing to do with this. You were not the one who cheated, and you were bullied by her your entire life. You did nothing wrong. But on the other side of the coin, there were a bunch of comments saying how she went too far, OP was being petty at this point, and she ultimately caused Tom to go into a deep depressive state. So I want to ask you guys one question. Where do you lie on this story? Put it in the comment section down below. Let's discuss it down there. I will see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day, and remember, it's cool to be kind.